everybody, and welcome to the Kino Cafe. This is our first episode. My name is Carlos,
My name is Sean.
and we're just two dudes. And we're here. We wanted to do a podcast, wanted to talk about the things we love, which is movies, TV, everything entertainment. And what we're bringing here to you today is a very special first episode because we're timing it with the Oscars race. Now, the Oscars are something that I've been following for a very long time. Ever since I can remember being a kid, I was always watching the Oscars with my family. It was always kind of an event in our house. The Oscars were always my Super Bowl, essentially. It was kind of like something that I felt was super important to the industry that I wanted to merge into. And it was always just fun seeing the movie start, seeing the movies that you watched all year. And I remember as a kid, it was obviously there were more movies that I had watched as you know in theaters that I found were nominated for the Oscars. But now that we've entered the streaming era, there's a lot of movies that are really kind of interesting to explore and find from all different corners of the world. So as I've grown and evolved and adapted into this film world, I've found that the Oscars have kind of changed with that, and it's been really fun. So, yeah, what do you have to say about that, Sean?
I completely agree. The Oscars were always like my Super Bowl. That was like the pinnacle of like being interested in film and cinema and everything. And um I I watched like every year. I never really did it with my family per se, but I always knew it was a big deal. So the Oscars and the Globes and everything like that. And uh I remember when I was younger, it would just give me like a list of movies to like rent from the library and like
Mhm.
sneakily watch without, getting caught by my mom or anything like that. So like best example, Black Swan and King's Speech and everything in 2010.
Yeah,
Watching that, seeing all the praise I was getting, then immediately like hiding in my room and watching those with the door locked,
yeah.
just to see what people were considering the best of the best.
Hmm.
But it just feels very meaningful because it's a very nice celebration, and I know there's been a lot of things happening the last couple of years. They've tried to like cut certain segments. They tried to make it a little more popular by adding that like MTV Movie Awards style,
Yeah,
like best fan moment segment. But I also think it's wonderful because it is like why ever since Parasite, I feel like it's been a much wider net, and we
yeah.
get access to a lot of cooler. They're not cooler, but to just more cinema in general.
Mhm.
And I don't believe that could ever be a bad thing unless it's streaming oversaturation. But
That's a topic for another episode,
that's
honestly.
a topic for another episode. Yeah.
It's interesting to bring up Parasite. So Parasite was actually my first year in college, and it was the first year that I was kind of exploring film on my own. And it was growing up here. Well, I'm in Central Coast of California, where we actually don't have any movie theater chains. The only theaters we have are kind of homegrown, private owned, and so it was always kind of hard to get access to things that weren't super mainstream. There was a theater, an independent theater, very small, kind of like 45 minutes from me, that would show some independent films and documentaries, but it was always tough to get your hands on that. But luckily, my local library came in clutch, and I would always go, and my dad would like check out bundles of movies, and it was always the newest stuff that came out. And some old stuff too. We would always watch older movies as well. But when it came to like Oscar season, I remember like one of the first ones I remember like really sinking my teeth into was The Social Network. Social Network was a big one because that was the year like Inception came out too. So I was like super into Inception. I loved that movie. That was like such a cool movie for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really watched much else that year, but The Social Network really stood out to me. And it was one that, I was 10 years old, and my parents were like, well, yeah, there's just some language and it's not super like obscene. Like we can watch this. If anything, he'll just be bored by it. And I loved it because it was at a time when I was really wanting to explore different kind of movies. Um, and I was still like a nerd too. Like I still, you know, still got my Marvel shit everywhere, but I was watching kind of both ends of the spectrum, and it was a lot of fun.
The Social Network was huge for me because I think I also saw it when I was 10, and that kind of like it was like such a random occurrence too. I don't remember why, but I watched it with my brother and his girlfriend at the time and my sister. I was the only one that cared. I didn't understand half of what they were saying. I didn't know much about the story at the time, but I was just enamored by everything that was happening, and it kind of led to this big like I want more like this because like I did have like the nerd mentality of like I would fall asleep to like the 2005 Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
sometimes stuff like that, and seeing Social Network was kind of like there's so much more that you can do. Like they've done nothing but talk this entire time, and I can't stop listening and I can't
Mhm.
stop looking at how even positive what some of it means. And then I think shortly after that, Inception came out. My other brother was a big Nolan fan because they filmed Dark Knight around the time
Yeah.
that he was in college.
Mhm.
And I remember he was uh, babysitting me, and I'd gotten it from the library. Love the library. Uh,
Library was great.
Library has an insane selection uh, of just the wildest stuff. I got Melancholia and Metropolis and watched
Really.
those recently from the library. Yeah.
As a kid, that's literally all we did. Like we had cable, but we didn't do like Redbox, we didn't do Netflix, we didn't do any of that. We had the library, and that's how we did TV and movies. We get the DVD, like full the West Wing, the full series on DVD, and then watch it
Yep.
every Monday night. And then when cable got super expensive, we cut it and then we went to Netflix finally. But the thing is, Netflix still at that like 2011 didn't have the content. They had like, I don't know, 500 movies or something, and it was just like bare minimum.
Yeah, it was kind of bottom of the barrel
Yeah.
stuff. It was a lot of. I was subjected to some horrendous Redbox originals when I was a kid.
Redbox originals.
Well, I don't know if they're Redbox originals, but there are some movies that I know that I've seen because my family was like, "Oh, let's get a movie on Redbox," and it was like a treat, right? Because it's like $1. It's like, "Oh, we're going to the gas station. The gas station's got a Redbox. We'll get
Yeah.
one movie. We'll watch it together." There are so many horrendous movies that I will never be able to forget. That even at like 9, 10 years old, I was like, this sucks. This is just not good, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They're kind of like Hallmark movies.
Hmm.
Um, and but it's just like the funniest thing about it is that like that was my only real experience with Redbox.
Let's dive in, kind of introduce ourselves. I realized we never really did that. We need to talk about who we are. Why should people listen to us? Why should anyone care what we have to say? And the answer is you really don't have to care.
No, this is horrible marketing to start off, but
This is amazing, yeah.
um,
No, so I guess my perspective is a film lover and someone who I I call myself a filmmaker, even though I'm not exactly there yet. But I went to film school for 4 years, developed a deep appreciation and love for the art of film, not only in my time at school, but in basically all my time before that, growing up. I was raised in a film first household, essentially, where we didn't really watch TV, we watched movies, and it was something that really kept me going and kept me inspired and really pushed me to where I want to be today. And so kind of looking at the state of the industry over the past year and a half even, it's been really important to me to try and really get my voice heard as far as, what I think is working in the industry, what I like to see, and which I like to think that a lot of other film goers share a similar mentality to me as far as what I consume, what I want to see more of, and you know, where I want this industry to go.
yeah, I guess I would be I guess I would call myself wannabe filmmaker. I've worked on stuff. I've wanted to work on stuff. I've written an ungodly amount since ever since Interstellar came out when I was 14. I've had notebooks and notebooks of just
Mhm.
like half-baked ideas or full scripts that I just thought sounded cool. And I love the medium because it's almost every art form combined into one. And ever since I was a kid, it's been a wonderful form of escapism. And because of the internet and everybody I've met, Carlos included, and just seeing how it affects everybody and like how passionate people can be from it and what they can take away from it. And even something as simple as like the original Spider-Man movies having a huge impact on so many people. To where, like sometimes like if I'm going through something hard, like I'll watch those and it's like this is it. This is the movie that I saw when I was like 4 years old, and this is giving me some answers and some inspiration. And
Yep.
uh, also some of them are just entertaining as hell.
Hmm.
Like I can't say the same for something along the lines of like any of the Fast and Furious, but my God, is it fun to watch Vin Diesel
Yeah.
blow stuff up with cars? But I am interested in sharing my thoughts on the industry. I feel like we have pretty similar ones because it's getting to like a very I can't think of an eloquent enough word, but it's getting scary, honestly. Especially with everything with AI and everything just in the last week about AI being able to create hyper realistic, you know, videos with nothing but prompts.
Yeah.
Um, and that's only like one of so many problems. Everything with like the strikes and uh, just streaming and everything. It might be shouting into a void, but I would like to shout still because
Yeah.
it's something I'm very passionate about.
We have never met, actually. You and I have never met in person. We
Nope,
have only had a virtual friendship, and it was, goodness me, 2015, right? We
believe
met
so.
on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my, that's a long.
That was a long time. We were in a group chat. I forget with who else, but it was a movie group chat, and I had just gotten a digital version of Kingsman, The Secret Service, and that was like one of the first things we talked about. And we just kind of, I've gone through two Instagram accounts, and now, 9 years of my life, and here we are. We're doing a little silly little podcast together.
It's nice to be doing something together.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. Um, and then both of us get busy and just kind of
Hmm.
forget. I remember I was supposed to write you a whole script this summer,
You were.
wrote you an outline. I don't even remember the idea at the moment. I can't
I still
recall it.
have it.
You
I
do?
still
Okay.
have it in my wall pocket. Yeah. I
Okay.
read
Did you?
it, and I was supposed to send you something, and I don't, this is what happens. We say we're gonna do something, we send it to each other, and then it just poof. But
It's
we're
like
here.
that old like Hollywood interview phase where it's like, oh, we've known each other for a long time. We just never found the right project. Like
Hmm.
this is the right project. We could.
This is our heat. Well, maybe not our heat, but this is like
This
this
is
is
I'd say
our what?
our thief. If we're comparing it to Michael Mann
Yeah,
film.
this is like our thief. Yeah, I would say. We're just starting out. Our heat, that's down the line.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today, we're talking about the Oscars. So the Oscars this year, I mean, we're already very close to the end of award season. It's been an interesting winter, leading into spring. Um, I don't think I've been this excited about an Oscars race since 2019. I think 2019 was the last year I felt that every single film that was nominated was truly deserving. Hot take, even Joker. Um, I have my reservations about Joker, but I do think it
Very
it
hot
has a
take.
lot of artistic and creative merit that was impactful enough. I mean, it was a $1 billion movie that had something to say. I don't know what that something was, but it said something, and it had a really good performance from Joaquin, which I think should not be overshadowed. But
I will say the performance and the score were spectacular. That
yeah,
I those belonged on the list for sure.
yeah. The score especially, and there was one I remember I had a little film bro brain, and I was infatuated with Ford v Ferrari. Ford v Ferrari was my movie, man.
I love that so much that I still like every time I'm looking for something to watch, I'm like, it's been a while. I think for me, 2019, it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Knives Out.
Ah,
Those
yeah.
those were my yeah. There we go. Did you get that from the new Bev?
I did actually, yeah. I'm not gonna turn around, but on the back it says New Beverly 35 millimeter. I didn't see it at the New Bev, but they just had leftover shirts when I went and saw Spider-Man 2.
I'm so jealous about that.
Okay, so yeah, 2019 was an exciting year. Um, I actually watched Parasite late. I think I watched Parasite like the week before the Oscars that year
Mhm.
because my friend Colby was like he was really rooting for that movie, and I understand why. Like it was an excellent movie.
Yeah.
I think at the time I just wasn't really like on board because I was literally so obsessed with Ford v Ferrari in 1917. Like those were my movies, and I was posting about them literally all day, every day. And so I didn't even have the mental capacity to focus on how good Parasite was. I watched it and I was like, that was really good. But I wanted 1917 to win Best Picture.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was after the Oscars that I had to revisit Parasite, and then I realized, okay, yeah, this movie's insane. Like this is incredible.
See, I'm pretty sure I saw it after the Oscars.
Really.
Yeah, I was interested, but at the same time, I was very busy in life, and I was kind
Mhm.
of just watching whatever was coming to theaters. I would go see it with my friend, but we it was like a small Cinemark, so it wasn't anything like besides mainstream, slightly less mainstream, but nothing like Parasite or I can't think of a lot of things that came out in 2019, but
Mhm.
nothing too small. Like No Last Black Man in San Francisco, Artist Self Defense.
Yeah.
That. And so I was kind of really focused on that. But then once it won, and I loved his line in the speech about
Hmm.
if you get over the 1 inch barrier subtitles,
Yeah.
and that was kind of like that was cool enough for me to go like not only am I going to watch that, but like the next three things I'm going to watch all foreign. I need the
Yeah.
subtitles like after that.
Yeah.
But I watched it after kind of like tempering expectations after all the hype, and it lived up to every single
Yeah.
expectation. I remember I after I watched it, my two things that I was trying to get all my friends and family to watch was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Parasite.
Yeah.
Uh, and no one, everybody bowed out about 10 minutes into Parasite because of the subtitles,
Nah.
but they all said that it was an amazing 10 minutes.
I honestly think that's a compliment.
I mean, yeah, especially because most of that like kicks in about the 30-minute mark. So to be able to see like barely the opening and the setup of everything,
Yeah.
it's so good you
Well,
don't even need to watch the whole thing.
so that was a really good year. And then every year after that has felt kind of like good. Like there's been like 2020 sucked, obviously. That was horrible.
Yeah.
21 was interesting because that was probably the worst ceremony of all time. That was when they cut cinematography,
Yeah.
score, visual effects, all that from the broadcast. And then they did, like you said, the MTV categories where it was like Zack
Yeah.
Snyder's Justice League. Uh-oh, we won.
The fact that that won an Oscar is gonna,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
That one,
if you're gonna give an Oscar to a popular thing, like at least do it like No Way Home or something. Like I feel like
yeah.
that movie had more cultural impact than Zack Snyder's Justice League, but ugh,
Yeah.
I can't deal with the Snyder talk right now. I have so much respect for Zack Snyder as a filmmaker and as obviously a human being. Like his movies are not for me personally, I think, but yeah.
Like, something I will say is that I know people have a lot of issues with Watchmen. Um,
Yes.
I don't think anybody could ever make it as visually, and I have my own issues with the ending and the story and everything, but I don't think anybody could ever make it as visually interesting as he did.
No, not at all.
I think that even if you not suspend disbelief, but just kind of like collapse yourself for a bit and don't look
Yeah.
too deep into it and just look at it, it is a beautiful one for one
Yeah.
artwork in the original. Yeah.
It is interesting though, after seeing The Killer and after seeing Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I do think a Fincher Watchmen would go crazy hard. Like that would be
He,
insane.
he would do something with that.
Like that would be cooking. Like I know Fincher Spider-Man would have been really funny, but that's more of like a meme, I think. I think Fincher Watchmen would actually be this like so visually immersive.
Especially because of how meticulous he is.
Hmm.
Also, I'm glad that we got to mention Fincher because The Killer wasn't nominated for a single thing.
It wasn't. We're going to talk about that because I have thoughts on that category. Let's get into that because I think that's actually a good segue because we can actually kick off here with sound.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna essentially pick out each category nominated. We're not talking about documentary feature, documentary short, live action short, or animated short. Just because I personally, I don't know if you've seen any of them, Sean. I have not watched any of them.
No, I was looking at the list before this and I felt very guilty because I did
Yeah,
not hear of some of them. And uh, yeah, no,
it's always
unfortunately.
that point in the night when I'm like, I don't know what to put on my ballot, but
Yeah,
Um, at some point I'll probably watch them because I always put them on like a collection somewhere online, and I like to watch them, but it's usually
yeah.
like after the fact. So, yeah, those are the only categories we're omitting. We're not discussing those, but what we're gonna do is, yeah, break down each category and explain what our pick for the category is, and kind of talk about each category a little bit. So I think a good first category to start with is sound because sound is my favorite category. I'm a little biased. I dabble in a little sound here and there. And I've always loved sound. I mean, growing up, Jurassic Park was like my jam. And so I would always watch the featurettes of like how they made the dinosaur sounds and everything. So I remember when sound was two categories. It was sound mixing and sound editing.
Yeah.
And I understand why they combined them because the awards always went to the same movie. It was always sound mixing goes to Slumdog Millionaire, sound editing goes to Slumdog Millionaire. Like there was never any differentiation until the one year when Skyfall and Zero Dark 30 tied, which was insane.
I remember that. That was very interesting.
That was for editing, I think, sound editing. Crazy, crazy. I've never seen a tie in my lifetime besides that. So that
I
was pretty cool.
That was the last cool thing we got because everything else became very tragic with the La La Land scenario. And then keep my
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh gosh, I remember that. That was like that was a fever dream. I could not like I remember being like seeing that live because it was that and that was on par with like the Will Smith slap, I think. Like as far as witnessing it live and questioning what am I watching? Because
yep.
you can watch it in hindsight retrospectively and be like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy. That's so crazy that that happened." But being there live was like so confusing.
I remember I know that might have been 16, my bad. I was stoked about Moonlight, but I remember feeling so bad because they got all the way up to the stage
Yeah.
and then they were the ones that had to go, oh,
Yeah.
we went the yeah.
This
Oh,
year's Oscars. We're going into sound. Our nominees for sound are The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. Good contenders. Good contenders. Now, I personally have not seen The Zone of Interest yet. I'm going to be watching it. By the time this episode comes out, I will have seen it.
same.
I know it's winning sound. That's all I know.
You
I
think
I
yeah,
know 100% The Zone of Interest is winning sound because everything I've heard about it and everything, I mean the Sound Guild Awards went to The Zone of Interest. I think the BAFTA for sound went to The Zone of Interest. Um, Pretty much everything in the realm of sound has gone to that film.
I did not know that.
The,
I was not progressed with that.
the problem I have is that The Killer should be the winner, and it's not even there.
That's in my notes, literally.
It didn't even make the short list.
That's ridiculous. Were you
Like
able to see it in theaters?
I wasn't. I was so bummed.
I got to see it in theaters, and no better experience with sound design than watching that in a theater,
Yeah.
especially because they had it too loud.
That's
I don't really have a positive answer for that. I'm not a Maestro hater, but we talked about
yeah.
this a little before we start recording. It's very much just a movie. I don't think it really.
Yeah.
I guess the most that they were probably thinking is like, oh, the conducting is wonderful and the mix of the music but I don't really remember it being that revolutionary in
It
terms of
feels
stuff.
like a Bohemian Rhapsody nomination where it's like, oh, big
Yes.
sound, big cuts. That means it's a good pick, right? I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of nuance in sound, and combining it into one category is interesting because I feel like something like The Creator, which I haven't seen The Creator, I'll be completely honest, but I've seen the sound reels for it. And something like The Creator is something that I feel like would be excellent in that sound editing category.
Oh yeah.
Um, because it is very, I know they're recognizing it for its effects driven stuff, the way that they create a world with sound. Something like Mission Impossible is good for its editing and mixing. And I'm really happy the Mission Impossible got nominated, and it's a bummer that it got nominated this year because Fallout should have been nominated for a lot.
Yes.
Fallout should
Yeah.
have been nominated for sound, cinematography, score, and in my opinion, should have been nominated for Best Picture. That was an excellent, excellent film, but God forbid an action movie get nominated. But also, John Wick wasn't in the conversation.
And Chapter 4 is arguably like the best film
Yeah,
of four. Doesn't have to be your favorite, but I think the amount of love and care and actual just like craft that went into that is pretty intense. But a lot of those get
yeah,
kind of shelved.
yeah,
Um, and I also think Mission Impossible, the sound was incredible. The sound was fantastic.
yeah.
I can't remember too much of it off the top of my head because I did. I think I saw it in June
Hmm.
when it came out, July, June. And I remember the sound being fantastic, but it was also about midnight,
Yeah.
and that film was about 3 hours. And the thing I think I was most focused on while I was watching that was just like taking it in
Hmm.
because everything was so incredible with that.
Yeah.
I also part of me is curious to see if Oppenheimer gets away with sound.
It probably I put in my notes, I put that the zone of interest was the lock based on everything that's happened before. The thing is, knowing the Academy, they're
Yeah,
probably going to give it to Oppenheimer because I mean, the way Academy voters vote is basically they usually go for the biggest movie, the biggest sound in the thing, and they don't, except for Sound of Metal, which was a good pick because Sound of Metal won, and that was one that really used nuance in its sound mixing to really accentuate the story. So yeah, I think it's right now it's a toss up between the Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer, but
I could imagine a lot of voters looking at that scene in Oppenheimer when the bomb goes off,
yeah,
and the silence followed by large boom, loud boom.
yeah,
And
it
it's
is
my
pretty impactful. Okay, so sound, yeah, I think it's a toss up. Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer. Let's actually go. Oh, let's just go in order here. Let's look at visual effects. Because visual effects is a fun, fun, fun little category this year. The Creator, I cannot argue with that. Godzilla, I cannot argue with that. Guardians, I can't argue with that. Didn't see Napoleon. I will
I did.
probably watch it. Did you watch Napoleon?
I did watch Napoleon. I've been. It was definitely a movie. Um, I will admit I wasn't really paying attention to much of the merits of it from a filmmaking standpoint because I was a little. I want to say flabbergasted, but that seems like such a lame word. But I think I genuinely was for once in my life. I was genuinely flabbergasted sitting there watching it because I was Ridley Scott might like he just dropped the ball a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I think in terms of VFX, like maybe, but
Hmm.
I also don't really know what it's doing on any of these lists per se.
But
There's,
of these picks, I
oh,
think Godzilla is the move.
I'd say Godzilla creator.
Yeah.
Probably more in favor. My pick would be the creator because I'm a big Gareth Edwards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm about to say I'm a big fan of him, but I blanked on his name for a second. I'm a giant Edwards fan. Um, I loved everything that went into the making of this movie and watching behind the scenes, especially
Yeah.
I remember his first film. I'm pretty sure Monster. He did the VFX himself.
Yeah.
I know how important it is to him. Um, and I just don't think I've seen more seamless CG
Yeah.
in a while.
It won
Um,
the Visual Effects Society Awards. It won everything for film. Because they did film, TV, and animation, and it just swept film.
I feel like it's deserved. It was very deserved.
I just know
Um,
Godzilla got a lot of PR attention with the visual effects and for how low budget it was. So I
I
think
wouldn't.
it probably could be either one, honestly. I think Guardians is that nod that Disney always gets a nod. I do think it's deserving. Guardians had some incredible visual effects.
I think it's definitely one of those two. It's definitely creator or Godzilla. I feel like if it's not, there will be major
Yeah,
upset with backlash because that's also another industry that's kind of
yeah.
being uh, messed around with the visual effects and everything like that.
Hmm.
I also just think Godzilla deserves it.
Hmm.
Um, as much as I love the creator and I was a fan of it, I think it deserves it because of the budget and then everything, like you said, that was coming out and all the hype about it and how they literally
Yeah,
just said like they did not want to overwork their VFX team. They all of that, but then like look what still came out of it.
yeah.
Um, I think it'd also be nice to give it some sort of recognition.
Mm. But editing, actually, editing's a good category. I really
And
like everything in this category.
I have to go to mine.
We have Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I think Oppenheimer's a safe lock.
I agree with that. I
Killers of the Flower Moon, however, Thelma's existence alone is enough of a threat. I don't think, however, yeah, Oppenheimer, Jennifer Lame is just incredible. I mean, it's so long and it's so dense and it has such a brisk pace.
yeah,
And it's really impressive. And I mean, it's kind of the same as Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, that's a 3 hour movie. And I mean, I sat there and it was just over. And I was like, oh shit, we're done. And but that's just Thelma. Like she's magic. It's and Thelma and Marty, the way they work together is so seamless that she can tell that story so well. And I think Oppenheimer's one that for its achievement in creating a 3 hour long historical narrative that keeps viewers of every demographic engaged somehow, I think that's an achievement in and of itself.
I agree. I honestly I wasn't expecting Killers of the Flower Moon. Uh, well, not for editing, because Thelma is an absolute legend. But I
Mhm.
also I feel like I felt like that was gonna get overlooked a lot. And a lot of the achievements of that movie just because it didn't have the greatest reception to people outside of like film circles.
Yeah.
Um, especially people that wanted intermissions, people that said that it was paced poorly. I don't agree with those things, but I could also understand Academy members maybe like
Yeah.
having shorter attention spans, not being as down to sit through it. So I was I'd be stoked if it did win. Uh, my pick was Oppenheimer. I feel
Mhm.
like that's a safe bet. And then I was also I think Poor Things
Yeah.
as well. The way that that's sectioned out, the way that it's the editing in terms of the comedic timing of things as well,
Yeah.
which I don't think anything else on the list really did that.
It's just Oppenheimer is just so good. It's too good.
I'm gonna be honest right now. I'm slightly biased. I would like an Oppenheimer sweep.
Yeah.
Um, I try when I was making the list. I was trying very hard to not just put Oppenheimer for everything
Yeah.
it's nominated for, but it's so good.
This is an interesting category. We have makeup. Makeup is always a fun category where there's
Yeah,
one movie that no one heard of or no one saw, and it's Golda. And I did not know about this movie. I'll be completely honest. I like to say that I'm in tune with things that are coming out. I
yeah.
rather my mom knew about this movie and I did not know how. I did not know because I didn't see any advertising. I didn't see any poster, trailer. I didn't see anything on YouTube, anywhere, TikTok.
I didn't
Where
see
did this
anybody,
come from?
even socially. I didn't see anybody watch it. On
No.
Letterboxd, I didn't watch it. I didn't see anybody say they were excited for it, say that they had a good time at it.
Yeah.
Um, I have no idea.
I could not tell you where it came from.
Do you think anything should have taken its place? Maybe.
Barbie, I'm
Yeah.
really surprised Barbie didn't make it in. I'll be completely honest. Like
Yeah.
I was looking at the nominations and for some reason I keep forgetting Barbie didn't get this nod. And they had over 65 hair and makeup stations and they were getting Barbies and Kens fitted with all of their wigs and all their makeup. And one thing that was actually really cool to watch that movie is how flawless everybody looks. No one, there's not one person that I'm like, oh, there's a blemish here, blemish there. Everyone looks perfect. There's an
The,
attention to detail there.
exactly the amount of detail that went into making everybody look that way, and even I think the detail that went into the more human she becomes.
Mhm.
There's things like her hair falls. Her hair's not platinum blonde anymore.
You can see her pores at the end of the movie.
See her pores. You can see. I can't remember everything specifically, but I saw someone break it down, uh, and I think that attention to detail not getting any recognition is a little ridiculous, especially because as much as I loved Oppenheimer, I don't know exactly if it belonged in this
Um,
category.
I hate to say it. I think this is Maestro's category. I think this is Maestro's only win of the
Yeah,
night.
the
It's
nose
gonna be Maestro.
is gonna be for the nose. Oh,
Because I watched a video of them putting him in the makeup, and it was really cool, actually. I was like, okay, this is pretty impressive. But, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like the whale, where it's like you look at it and you realize, yeah, this is the most work that went into it to create something so visually accessible. It's not bad work by any means, and I hate saying like this doesn't deserve an award because so
no,
much work goes into it. Um, I would have just loved to see something like Barbie in here because it is something a little off the wall and something that people don't really pay attention to. Yeah, I just think Maestro's gonna walk away with this one.
I think Maestro is also probably off of the how would I put this, the timeline makeup,
Yeah,
that the aging. It reminds me a lot of Gary Oldman. Did they win makeup and hair for Darkest Hour?
they did, yeah.
Uh, Kind of the idea of just like hiding himself enough. Because the one thing I will say I was extremely impressed by was, um, as time goes on, it does feel like he's playing different versions of
Yeah.
Leonard, and the sex and makeup help that a lot, and he works very
Yeah.
well with.
It was
Um,
definitely narrative based and it is more merited. I just think it's funny that that'll be the only thing it wins
I just
because
think
it's the most infamous part of the movie.
it's just I don't, like you said, like I don't want to hate on anything, but Maestro is such a movie.
It's just it's objectively a movie. They said
The
things and
gloves.
movies moved. Yeah. But that actually leads into costume design, which I'm pretty excited about this category. We have
Yeah,
Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things, which were definitely the ones that everyone knew was gonna be in there. I think our two real contenders are Barbie and Poor Things. I think
that is
those are
what.
the
Yeah,
two. Yeah, I like Barbie's going to win. I know Barbie will win.
yes. I
Poor Things should win.
I think I agree. It's very difficult because I'm starting to notice that since we agree so much and we have known each other for so long, it seems like we have similar trains of thoughts on things.
Mhm.
But the first thing I thought was, oh, just looking at it before I could even like kind of decide which one I wanted to win, I was like, oh, Barbie needs to win. And I think directly under the list I was looking at was Poor Things.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, wait, but Poor Things.
yeah,
And so I put both down because I honestly can't, I don't think I could choose one
yeah,
over the other. I think both of them did an immaculate job. Also just to be an Oppenheimer fanboy, I do think that if that walked
yeah,
away with it, I would be slightly like, oh, well, okay. But at the same time, like they did a very solid job.
yeah. I mean, they had Oppenheimer's superhero outfit. They had to
Yeah,
create that, you know? Poor Things is just so wild. I mean, it's crazy. We've never seen anything like that. And the costumes reflect Bella's journey.
okay.
Which is exactly the same as Barbie. The costumes
Yeah,
reflect her journey too.
I would say maybe Poor Things just because Poor Things is kind of across the board.
Mhm.
Whereas with Barbie, I'd say like I know that like Ryan Gosling wanted the mink. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I heard in an interview that he was like, "What if I just went super douche with it and I wore a mink?" Um, Not to discredit the costume designers on that whatsoever, but I think Barbie's is very specific, but then with Poor Things, you get the story of Bella and her growth through her clothes, but then it kind of like, or what she wears. But I also believe that the world that they built and the characters in them, everything they're wearing is so very perfectly suited to them.
Yeah.
That makes sense, even down to like Rami Youssef's character,
Yeah.
very tidy and like by the rules, and so he's dressed very like well, but also just like a little more like stingy, like a man who hasn't seen the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah,
Or
and
Mark.
Willem Dafoe is so eccentric.
Yeah,
It's like the opposite, the flip side. Production design, however, I have my
yes.
pick for production design because our nominees are exactly the same as costume design. Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things.
Yes.
And the obvious choice is Barbie. That's a soft lock.
I
My
agree.
choice is Poor Things. And here's why. I watched that film and I realized that the sets, the world around Bella, literally physically change
Mhm.
because as she matures, the world matures around her. Her view of the world changes.
Yep.
Things happen in the first, I forget where it is, but when she and Mark Ruffalo first go to that hotel and she's walking around that city and everything's like flying. Like there's
Yep.
floating shit. There's like it looks like you're in that like Caesar's Palace dome, where it's like a fake sky.
Specifically
Because
where
she's
she
a
walks out onto the
yeah,
terrace.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the film, when she goes to see Willem Dafoe, everything is back, everything is normal.
Yeah.
Like all the buildings are black, all the skies are gray, all the cobblestone is in the ground that you didn't see earlier, and instead you saw like, you know, laid brick. And it was really cool to me that they used production design to change the emphasis of the story. And Barbie is really impressive because they created Barbie Land. I
Yeah.
think for me, everything outside of Barbie Land when it was the real world felt a little too real world. It felt a little too like, oh, kind of normal generic world stuff. Um, all the stuff in Barbie Land was the highlight production design wise.
Yeah.
I just think Poor Things attempted something so whimsical and crazy, and it actually achieved it, and it affected the narrative so well.
I completely agree with that. And I think I would like to see Poor Things win. If it doesn't, I feel like that's a lock.
Mhm.
Honestly, for me, I feel like that's a lock. I had that down. I will say, I just in my notes I wrote down Barbenheimer because
Yeah.
I will say between Los Alamos and everything
Mhm.
that they did to build that, which I could easily see them kind of awarding them, and Barbie Land,
Mhm.
had two major kind of set pieces that were built and made that were far beyond kind of anything else that was done this year. Was
Yeah.
I really want it to be Poor Things,
Yeah,
specifically
same.
what you said and the just the way that everything changes and
Yeah.
continues.
Music. Music, music, music. Original score. This is probably the worst category of the entire show.
You think
This,
so?
I think, well, I don't know. Maybe not the worst. It's close. This is pretty rough
Yeah,
because I did watch American Fiction and I loved American Fiction. I don't know what it's doing here. I'm sorry. Like
I agree. I don't.
like
Because
if
the music
this is the one
effect,
that nudged out Across the Spider-Verse, I
that's
will be
frustrating.
very upset because we can talk about Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones
I got you.
objectively should not be there. I know why it's there though.
I understand
It's
what's there, but theoretically, if you want to give a blockbuster best score
yeah,
this year, it's not Dial of Destiny.
it's not Dial of Destiny.
I,
And it happened because he said he was going to retire with this score. And I knew when he said that he's getting nominated because he got nominated for all the Star Wars films. And it's not a bad score by any means. I actually love the Dial of Destiny score. The Helena's theme is incredible.
because when you said Helena's theme, the first thing I thought of was he still does such a fantastic job. I remember hearing Ray's theme for the first time
Hmm.
before that film came out, before Force Awakens came out. I would listen to that like a normal song. Like that
Oh,
was like
same.
that was like in a playlist I would listen to while I was at school. It was beautiful, and I still think it's one of the highlights of that movie and that secondary trilogy. I'm gonna be unprofessional for a bit. As an Indiana Jones fan, I don't understand why Dial of Destiny is getting any love.
Yeah, yeah, I can agree. Yeah,
I don't,
it's
I
I
don't, I
can
don't
see that.
at all.
It,
But
that movie being recognized in general is kind of flawed for me. I think like ugh, and that's the thing, Oppenheimer's winning. Everyone knows Oppenheimer's taking it.
I think it's. Let me pull out my list real quick. I 100%. I wrote down Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Poor Things, Killers, great uh, scores. I just Oppenheimer did something else.
Oppenheimer was so culturally influential that I think the music is what connected people to that movie. I was so like devastated by that final cue of Destroyer of Worlds when that comes in, and like I literally, my heart was racing. And it was also the scene when he's being interrogated and the bright light comes on and that music's kicking in, and the bomb sequence, obviously like every single score cue in that film was so like tense, and it got my literally got my heart racing and I couldn't breathe at certain points.
It fits what we've been talking, like kind of the through line we've been talking about, where like it kind of it has such a purpose to the story
Yeah.
and everything. Where it's not necessarily not just to add to the film, but it is part of the film.
Yeah.
So I feel like if in a perfect world, if Oppie didn't exist, it would be Poor Things for me.
Cinematography, this one's pretty straightforward. We have El Conde, didn't watch it. Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And once again, I think it's an Oppenheimer lock.
I think it's Oppenheimer.
It's an
Um,
Oppenheimer lock.
did I
There's
write?
no way it doesn't win.
No, I just wrote Oppie Lock in my notes. I think that's fair. Yeah, there's not much else that I have to say about that. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Especially if you, even if you watch, I'd say the opening scene to the introduction of Downey Downey Jr.'s
Mhm.
character, that should be enough of an example
Yeah.
to be like, oh no, this is it. Yeah,
And I haven't seen it yet. By the time this comes out, I will have seen it. But this is why I'm glad. At the moment, I couldn't see it, but I'm glad they delayed Dune. Because
yeah,
if Dune had to compete against Oppenheimer for cinematography, I would have pulled my hair out. Original song. This is a really quick category because we know it's Billie Eilish. Like it's just that.
yeah. No, I would argue, I would argue maybe I'm just Ken, just because
Yeah,
the significance of that one was a little higher because people are still just saying like enough and stuff like that. But
yeah.
I could see, it probably gonna be Billie Eilish.
But we got Flamin' Hot. We got the Flamin' Hot song.
I didn't even know there was a song in that movie.
I didn't even know that was a movie until it got nominated.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I didn't know that movie existed. I thought it was a meme. I realized I saw a poster for it, and I thought it was one of those like posts from the Instagram page fuck advertisements where it was
Oh
like
yeah.
a fake movie. And I was like, oh, haha, Cheeto movie. And then I saw this nomination. I was like, oh my God, wait. And then I looked it up and I saw that like who made it. And I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing. Holy shit. Animated feature film. This category. This category. It's Boy and the Heron. I know it's winning.
I think I think it's Boy and the Heron. Boy and the Heron is definitely gonna win. I know Miyazaki said that it was his last film, but then
Mhm.
apparently after so much positive reaction, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna make another one.
Yeah.
He is a bit old. I, it's not impossible that this might be his last film that he
Yeah.
fully completes, and I would love to see it get recognition. Not only is it an amazing film, but as some sort of kind of legacy, like congratulations on your final film. Not only was it an absolute banger, but you've contributed so much to animation and film in general. Like, we'll give it to you.
Well, that
Congratulations.
was another, actually, going back to score, that was another one got snubbed, was The Boy and the Heron.
Like,
Because
yeah.
that got the Golden Globe nomination and the Annie Award nomination. It's been getting a lot of traction and they just left it out again. And that was it would have been his first Oscar nomination. obviously the nerd in me and the film goer in me wants to say Across the Spider-Verse, but it's one of those years that Into the Spider-Verse came out at the perfect time. And I think Into
Yeah,
the Spider-Verse really shook up animation as a genre. I'm really sad Elemental's in here and
I
Mutant Mayhem is not.
I agree.
Um,
Across is very much so, like you said, flashy. It's very like it doesn't necessarily feel like it has the heart that Into the Spider-Verse had, and you can very much tell that it's a bridge between what we got in Into the Spider-Verse and then whatever Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to be.
yeah,
Um, Even to the fact that they were like, look at this new character we added, look at this new world we added, look at this new thing we added, and there's enough emotional stake, but most of it comes towards the end. The rest of it is just kind of like fun
yeah,
almost. Where, like you said, Into the Spider Verse, a perfect standalone film about being told he can't deserve it or he doesn't deserve this thing that he's gotten, and then feeling like he finally does.
directing. We have some
Yeah,
good directors here. Justine Triet, Martin Scorsese, Christopher Nolan, Yorgo Lanthimos, and Jonathan Glazer. I haven't seen The Zone of Interest. I can't judge it.
yeah.
I think Nolan is the soft lock on like
I agree. I wrote down Glazer unlikely just because I don't think that they would give it to him.
mhm.
I still, like I said, I still haven't seen it either. But I don't know. I think out of everything, I think he would be the last option. So it'd be very interesting to see if he did win
Yeah,
over everybody else. But I definitely think it's going to Nolan. And it's definitely earned with this one too.
yeah.
If they did that for Tenet or anything like that, to just kind of like I would.
Imagine a Tenet sweep. That would have been hilarious.
There was a I love Tenet. But I could not have supported a Tenet sweep.
No,
Even in
that would have been
even in
yeah,
2020, there's no way that I would have been able
no
to
way.
justify that.
Um, yeah, I think Nolan's the pick, which actually leads us to writing, because I think writing and directing this year are like married pretty much. Um, it feels like all the writing nominees between both categories should have been nominated for director, actually. Because in adapted, we have American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. And if Poor Things didn't exist, because I think Poor Things is gonna win. Um, and actually, Barbie's probably the upset. If you think about it, Barbie didn't is not gonna win anything besides its technical. After watching it, I really would love American Fiction to win. That was
I
such a good screenplay.
I I would be stoked if that one. I also, when it came to adapted, I'd be cool with anything,
Yeah,
honestly. I wasn't too sure when I was looking at the list because I could see scenarios where all of them won. I could see scenarios where none of them were upsets either. I would love to see Barbie just kind of to give Greta
yeah,
something. Um, but also like he's like American Fiction is probably the most fresh in my brain. Um,
same.
and Heimer because I back to back that like three times in the theaters, so it's kind of ingrained in my. But
Yeah.
American Fiction, I truly believe if that wins, I'll have a little smile on my face
That'll
because
be for me, it'll be kind of the equivalent of something like because I'm thinking some of my favorite screenplay wins. You know, we have Parasite, Get Out,
yep,
um, Three Billboards.
fantastic. Yeah, I might make that my pick actually. Just for the sake of actually choosing something, I think my pick will be American Fiction.
Original.
Sorry for that yawn.
No, you're good. Original screenplays: Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May, December, and Past Lives. Good gravy. This is a category.
I got some thoughts
Me
right
too.
off. You kind of already covered everything that's great about Anatomy of the Fall. So that was the
Yeah.
first. I truly believe that if Anatomy wins, more than deserving,
Yeah.
perfect.
I think it will win. I think it is the pick.
Yeah. Holdovers. I,
Hmm.
I could really see that getting something, and I could really see that being not an upset, but like a sweet surprise of just kind of
That
like,
would be that would be the best timeline if the holdovers won. Such
And
a great film.
the one that upsets me the most is Past Lives,
Hmm.
because I know that that's not getting anything.
Hmm.
And they put it in a very coveted spot for one of the most immaculate parts of that film.
Yep.
And I already know that it got very shafted at the Joe Coy comedy special that happened
Yeah.
this year. Um, and I would, for me, I just would love to see it win.
Yeah.
So it's going to. This is probably the only year where that's happened for a while, where it's like I would really like it to be this. I like am hoping and praying until they announce the winner that there's still a chance it could be this. But somewhere deep in me, I just know it's not going to go.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that I'm disappointed with the other choices. Holdover was brilliant. I think it surprised a lot of people as well, and I think so much of that
Yeah.
was the script and the writing, and like you said, you covered everything about Anatomy of a Fall
Yeah.
and
May December is, I mean, we have like Hydrogen Bomb Coughing Baby situation
yeah,
with Anatomy of a Fall versus like Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. Not that they're bad screenplays. I don't
no,
know what Maestro's doing there, but May December and Past Lives were excellent screenplays.
yeah.
They just can't compete.
I think that's I think where that twist in my stomach comes for Past
Yeah.
Lives. I just know that I don't think anything's getting past Anatomy of a Fall for this,
No.
uh, and I'm
But
okay
it's
with
great.
that.
It's a great screenplay, but
The screenplay is worth
such
it.
a shame. And Celine's song should have been in director.
I agree with that completely.
All right, time for the acting. We have the most mundane categories here because we just know who's winning everything. Like
Yeah,
at this point, it's locked in. I'll start with supporting actress. It's Divine Joy Randolph
yeah.
is winning that. There's no competition. Actor in a supporting role.
Okay.
It's Robert Downey Jr. Yay.
Yeah, it's Downey. I'd say an upset would be, or not upset because I would be fine with both of these, but Gosling or Ruffalo.
Yeah. I could see Gosling or Ruffalo being a surprise. I, you know, I think Ruffalo has the bigger chops there. And
Yeah,
he didn't win for Spotlight, right?
I don't think he did. No.
Because that was one that I really wanted him to win for. He was incredible in that movie. Um, I mean, he needed to be in the conversation for shit like Zodiac. Like
Yeah,
he should have been recognized way back when, and I think it's good that he's finally getting the traction now. The surprise for me would be Sterling K. Brown. I would really love
I,
Sterling K. Brown to win.
I think he would be fantastic. I
He
think
was
especially
so
because
good.
this there's a scene specifically. It's the one where he talks about how our dad never knew who I really was.
Yeah.
That scene alone, and I think if you then take his importance throughout the rest of the movie and what he signifies and everything, I think that he does such an amazing job that sometimes it was more interesting to see him when he was on screen.
Yeah.
To see his character pop up in these scenarios.
And that leads us into actor, which is without a doubt gonna be Cillian Murphy. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
hate to say it, but Paul Giamatti lost all traction.
I don't think I wrote down that Wright or Giamatti would be great.
Mhm.
Um, Killian's getting this.
He's getting
I'm,
this.
I'm sure he knows, and he's just already exhausted at the idea that
Yeah.
he's got to talk for that many people and talk. Um, I just think he gave the best performance out of everybody on that list. I think no, I'm kind of an Oppenheimer fanboy. I know
Me
it's
too.
very he did transform.
Hmm.
He transformed, but at the same time, like he didn't overdo it. He's just that good of an actor where he brought, you know, the cockiness, the arrogance, the accent, the mannerisms, the panic attack scenes, the subtleties, the everything. And I don't really know if there was a role that rivaled that this year either.
Paul Giamatti gave my favorite performance of the year in my personal opinion. I think Paul Giamatti did something that was so unique, and for a comedy, it was so transcendent for him because people looked at it and I think on the surface they think, oh, Paul Giamatti always plays a little quirky, crazy guy. But there's a lot of depth in that performance that people really aren't reading into, and I think it makes it deserve that nomination, and it makes it deserve that question of like, could it be Giamatti? But this was like 3 months ago when people asked that question.
The amount of time that you have to spend with Oppenheimer as a character, I think that that could have easily become very not the case, I guess.
Yeah,
It's 3 hours of him, and the fact that you never feel that facade shake, and you're like, oh, I'm watching Cillian Murphy give a really good performance,
yeah.
uh, is extremely important. I don't think I truly realized the fact that he is in every single scene because he's narrating from the first person in that
Yeah,
screenplay. He is in every single scene, and
yeah.
I didn't notice that. And it all hinges on him.
Actress in a leading role. This is really funny because we are now at the full 50-50. We are here. We have Emma Stone versus Lily Gladstone, and that's it. No one else is competing. My money, knowing the Academy, my money is on Lily Gladstone.
I'm gonna say Lily Gladstone because I want people to forget about
La La Land.
uh, um I'm just gonna say Lily Gladstone, leave it at that. I did have a point I wanted to bring up that I thought was interesting. Where the hell did Naiad come from?
Yeah, okay, that's on my notes here. Someone brought up that they were expecting SAG to almost do the weird thing and give Annette Bening lead actress.
Yeah,
I knew they weren't, but I just thought that would have been hilarious if Naya just comes out of nowhere and just eats that award and
yeah.
yoinks it from Lily Gladstone. I did not watch this movie. I have not watched this movie. I don't know if I will. I just don't I didn't hear about it. It just showed up. And we have it in two categories.
It No disrespect either, because Jodie Foster and Annette Bening are
Oh, they're incredible.
legends. I'm huge fans of them. I just Where did it come from? I guess
I
is a
have
question.
no idea.
Zone of Interest at the very least was Zone of Interest. I know it was like Jonathan Glazer's making another movie. Like,
Yeah.
here
It was
comes this.
very secret, kind of limited, you know.
Yeah, with Naiad, I literally remember the first time I heard about it was at the Globes.
Me too.
When I think who won? Annette Bet was it Annette Bening or Jodie Foster won?
No
Or was
one
it
won. They just got
nominated?
nominated. And I remember after the Globes, I watched May December and I logged into Netflix and it was right there on my homepage. And I was like, okay, so this movie is real.
Yeah, it's so confusing, and I don't even know what it's about. And I'm tempted to watch it just to see and kind of like speculate about why it is on the list for certain things.
It looks like I mean, the story is fascinating. It would be like Jamie Lee Curtis. Like I would be
Yes,
fuming.
yeah.
I would be so upset. That would be the worst timeline if Annette Bening won. But at the same time, it would be so funny. I would just be laughing my ass off.
Maybe small disappointment if Emma Stone
Yeah,
wins.
pain.
Then again, I'll just like it'll take maybe 10 seconds of like, oh man. But you know what? Poor Things was really good.
It
And
was.
that'll probably be my reaction if she does win.
Yeah. Big boy time.
Yeah.
Picture of the year. What do we got American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. The only one I haven't seen is The Zone of Interest. Um,
Yeah, same.
yeah, I think Oppie's got enough momentum here. I think track record wise, it's taking it. If we want an upset, if we really want an upset, and I think the big upset here, as far as a safe pick, will be Killers of the Flower Moon. I think Killers of the Flower Moon would be the very safe pick if they wanted to give something different,
Yeah.
because it isn't a movie that really challenged the public perception that much as far as divisiveness.
Yeah.
It was a very welcomed movie. If they wanted a real shakeup, Poor Things would be they're really just holy shit, what the fuck are we doing? The real coughing baby here is Maestro, but
Yeah.
that's the only one that I'm just like, good
I'd be a
gravy.
Maestro hater. I
Like, why are we still doing this?
Yeah.
Who?
Well, he's not nominated for director.
Yeah,
Is he nominated for actor? I have a
he is. Yeah.
I should put these on my computer next time. I feel like a barbarian. Uh no, Maestro is a coughing baby, and I don't think I'd truly be upset if any of these won. I think American Fiction, I'm happy to see it on there. I don't know if
Yeah.
it wouldn't upset me if it won. I would probably be like, interesting choice, but like
Yeah.
I still that movie's incredible.
I feel like American Fiction is like Coda almost, where I mean Coda had too
Yeah.
much momentum, in my opinion. I saw Coda at Sundance. I really enjoyed Coda. There's nothing wrong with Coda, but I think
Yeah.
that's the problem I had was that there were other films that year that really like were challenging and were really just impactful and just I don't know. Coda just felt really safe to me. Same with Nomadland. Yeah, I think Oppenheimer is the pick. I think it's gonna win. I will be very happy if it wins. It's a great film. I would be ecstatic and over the moon if Past Lives won. I would be ecstatic and over the moon if The Holdovers won or Anatomy of a Fall. Basically, all of these winning would be a good timeline, except for Maestro. I think if Maestro won, I would just turn the TV off and be slightly disappointed and then move on with my day.
Yeah, I think it would be a little anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think I would freak out about it per se, but I do think I'd be a little disappointed. And the rest of them, it was such a good year for film that I don't think I could be upset about any of them winning.
A movie that let's think about a movie that should have subbed out Maestro. I'm trying to think.
Iron Claw,
Iron Clown.
Iron Claw.
I got it. I got it. Five Nights at Freddy's should have been
I
the
Josh Hutcherson for Best Actor.
one of the things that we want to include on this show is like a different kind of recurring segment that we can engage with our viewers with. And one of the things that's a constant in both of our lives is music. We listen to a lot of music. We explore different kinds of music. We are big fans of movie soundtracks, scores, but there's a lot of music that I think our music tastes are pretty aligned. So we tend to kind of share it with each other. And one thing that we wanted to do is now share it with you.
My it depends on the day and the mood and the vibe.
Mhm.
Uh, I have two picks for this week, and
Mhm.
they're very moody, kind of like wintry weather. The first one is the Tenet score. After
Okay.
seeing that again, I started to appreciate that a lot more. I've been listening to it a lot. I think that's the most slept on part of that film, and I
I
think
agree.
it's probably one of the most slept on Nolan film scores in general. Um, Arguably better than the movie.
Yeah, honestly.
If you sit and just kind of like listen to any of it, the attention to detail, the theme being worked on so many ways in so many different tracks, and the excitement and like the pure like, which I don't think comes across in the sound mix as much because of
No.
Nolan's insistence to have everything kind of like monorural. Is it correct? Just like on top of each other, basically making it
Yeah,
sound
pretty
like
much everything just lives on top of each other without blending in too much. They don't duck the music down a lot, which is a choice. It's definitely a choice.
definitely. And but I think on its own, it's a beautiful score and it's exciting and
Yeah.
awesome. Uh, yeah, I've been listening to that, and the other thing is Wall of Eyes,
Okay.
the Miles' new I don't remember if it's an EP or an album. It's Tom York, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, and I think Brian Eno.
Hmm.
Possibly. There's a third person. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. I fall asleep listening to that. It is. I wish that I could do a deeper dive on it, but unfortunately, it's been like just something very like stress relieving and peaceful to
Hmm.
sit down and listen to, and it's extremely impressive. Especially the song "I Quit." It's very like cathartic. It's been fun to listen to after busy days and stuff like that, or just while working and doing things. And then uh, I do have a third tiny thing, but I rewatched Tron Legacy.
Yes.
I've had that song "Digital Silence" by Peter McPullen stuck in my head because of that one TikTok edit.
Hmm.
So whenever I can't get that out of my head, I'll turn that on.
I think TikTok has been interesting because I actually refused to get a TikTok for about 2 years. Well, no, 3 years. Um, maybe four. I guess it kind of came around like 2018, right? That was when it was big.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I didn't have a TikTok till about 22. Yeah. It was actually right before Avatar: The Way of Water came out is when I got a TikTok. And my roommate like pressured me into it, and I was like, fine, I'll get it. Because my concern was I'm just gonna spend too much time on it. I've definitely learned how to regulate my time on social media and like infinite scrolling, bed rotting. But one thing that TikTok has been really cool is actually bringing a lot of music back that I remembered
Yeah,
liking, like a lot of early 2010s pop. Like I got back into a crazy like 2010s pop phase, and I got super defensive about it too, in the sense that like this is my music. Like I got back into Pitbull, dude. Pitbull came back in a big way for me because of Mortal Kombat 1 and the Johnny Cage edits with International Love.
yeah.
And I saw him last summer at the Mid-State Fair, and it was this amazing show. Like he puts on such a good show. He has such a good like positive message. And it's like Pitbull doesn't he doesn't do anything. I don't think he's ever done anything like wrong or right. Like he just is.
He's
He
just
is
Pitbull
he's
going
just
live.
Pitbull. But no, I've been getting back into some different things. But currently, my two picks this week, I'm currently in a big Olivia Rodrigo phase. I am all over Guts right now. Guts is everywhere. I've been listening to it nonstop. I'm like dying. Like I'm not on the same level, but I'm like dying to see when she comes to LA. I really want to go to that show, but I just don't think I'm gonna be able to because of how it times out. But if she ever expands her tour, I really want to see her because I was in a Leve phase, and then I went back into Olivia Rodrigo because I listened to Sour when it first came out, and I really liked it. And I think she has just such a good sound and a good unique approach to this just angry, like grating rock pop sound, and very engaging. Um, so Guts has been my number one right now. It's probably on repeat on Spotify. But my second pick is actually the Stop Making Sense soundtrack. I I grew up big Talking Heads household. My dad loves the Talking Heads. My parents love the Talking Heads. So their music was always on. And it was stuff that was subconsciously locked in my head, but I didn't like seek it out as I grew up. Then I saw the film when it came out again last fall.
Yeah,
Um, Blew me away, and it reminded me of all that music that I had been hearing. So I found the soundtrack. They released the soundtrack again, and I got more of their music on my playlist. And that whole just live album has just been taking over my life. Like it's so immersive, and I just think the way that the film complemented it so well is just that's what makes it meaningful to me. So that's been on repeat for me over the past like 2 weeks. Cannot get cannot get it out of my head. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much everything we wanted to touch on in this episode. I don't think I have anything else, but I guess for final thoughts, I guess just going forward, one thing that's important to me, at least with this little adventure we're going on, is definitely, I mean, our goal, we're keeping it real. We're not putting on voices, we're not putting on faces. This is who we are. what we think and what we feel in this entertainment world. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of really scary, terrible things going on in the world. And having grown up with an entertainment first mindset, I do believe in the importance of entertainment in keeping, our culture alive and our worldview aligned. And I think there's nothing more challenging to our perception than a good movie or a good piece of music or a good book. And I think that's something that we really have to keep alive. And, by every Blu-ray we buy or movie ticket we buy or stream we play, we as consumers can help keep that alive, and we can help. That's what my goal is with this, is to really get my thoughts out there, and maybe we can find some like-minded people.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add to that. Yeah, you're putting things so eloquently and beautifully and just very succinctly. I guess that's really it. I think the most I could do is summarize and just say entertainment is important, not just for culture, but just for like survival and humanity in general. Like everybody needs entertainment, and it's important to talk about it. Otherwise, it gets diluted down to the most common denominator, and it no longer has that specialness, that importance. Yeah, that's about
Yeah,
it
so
though.
next episode we'll be talking about the rest of the year in film. We'll be talking about our top three most and least anticipated, which is sure to be interesting. That might be something that we actually might disagree on some of these things.
Really? You think so?
I don't know if, at least in the least anticipated category, we might hit some walls. Maybe not firm disagreements, but we might have some surprises. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna be kind of talking about the rough start we've had this year to the state of film and kind of where things are going, because, a lot of the most exciting stuff tends to happen towards the end of the year, but we do have some cool stuff happening in summer. So definitely excited to talk about that. So look forward to that next episode. And then we'll probably see, now I really want to talk about the state of the Sony Pictures Marvel Universe in episode 3. And I think that's our topic because we are certified webheads, major Spider-Man nerds,
Is that what we call ourselves? Webheads?
I guess. I don't
That's
know.
cool as fuck. I've been looking for a word for it. I didn't
There
know
you
if
go.
our
Yeah, I mean it sounds better than Spider-Man nerd, I think. Spy
but
web yeah, I think webhead's good.
webheads, web.
Um So yeah, I think I'm excited to see where this goes. So thank you for listening. Make sure to tune in next episode to see our most and least anticipated films of 2024. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It's Twitter. It's what it is, and that's what we're using it as.
Not giving you.
You can listen on Spotify. You can watch on YouTube, see our beautiful faces, and come join the fun, join the conversation. Send us your questions, whatever you got, and let's have a good time.